When talking about the best superhero movie of all time, a few key names always show up. Movies like The Dark Knight, Avengers Endgame, The Batman, Amazing Spider-Man are often praised for their spin on the often crowded space. But one movie that always seems to pop up and is looked at as the pinnacle of superhero movies is Spider-Man from 2002. This movie is often talked about as one of the best superhero movies of all time and is praised for its perfect villain, dynamic Peter Parker, and just fun nature. But is it true, or is it a result of nostalgia morphing people's view on a terrible film? Today I'm here to answer that question. Is Spider-Man 2002 quality, or just nostalgia? During a school field trip to Columbia University, Peter Parker, a shy and nerdy high school outcast, has been bitten by a genetically enhanced spider. An extraordinary transformation occurs now with his body undergoing drastic changes. Peter gains distinct arachnid powers and a phenomenal newfound spider abilities. Quick to realize that with great power there must come great responsibility, and therefore the unhinged, unnaturally strong supervillain, the Green Goblin, enters the picture, more than willing to put Peter's moral strength to the test. However, is Peter's unexpected mutation a blessing or a curse? Will Peter dedicate himself to fighting crime as New York City's mass protector, or will he fall? Yeah, that's a synopsis for the movie. I did kind of put two synopses together to make that, but the movie is pretty decent. And although many things are overlooked, some things are flawless. This movie has aged okay. I wouldn't say it's aged amazingly, but I think the VFX has aged pretty good. The costume design has aged pretty well as well. It isn't the worst film nowadays. My only problem with it is that I think it's really cheesy. But yeah, personally, I think this movie has the perfect villain in Willem Dafoe. And, he is the flawless villain. So, without further ado, I guess let's get into breaking down Willem Dafoe. The difference between a good character and a bad one is casting. A great actor can keep a good character and add a level of depth to the character's just ideals. A good example of this is Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Some more good examples would be Heath Ledger's Joker. Whoever plays Thanos, I am such an idiot. I don't know whoever played Thanos, but whoever played Thanos did a great job at defining that character. But for a little more context, Green Goblin made his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man number 14 and becomes the premier Spider-Man villain. Norman Osborn is later revealed to be the Green Goblin and is using his persona to scare his victims. For the next, probably, I think, something like 20 to 50, I don't know, 50 years, Green Goblin will become the premier villain for the web slinger. Think of Joker for Batman, or Red Skull for Captain America. Green Goblin is the premier villain. So as time went for the right to start writing the Spider-Man script, you had to realize who they had to choose. The reason the movies looked on so positively is, one, because of nostalgia, and two, I think the reason this movie I think is looked on so well is because of Willem Dafoe. He really did carry this movie. But even if the movie had problems, even I have to admit, Willem Dafoe is one of the best comic villains ever in movie history. The one scene that sells it for me is the scene which Green Goblin and Osborn are fighting for control. Dafoe is able to convince the audience that they are both present and that trying to sell the idea that they're fighting control in one body. And in fact, when you're watching, I think you're watching the movie, you'll never think that the actor making the decision. It all feels organic. You have Norman on one side debating what he's done, and you have the Goblin on the other side of the mirror really playing into Norman's insecurity. I think No Way Home did expand on this, but No Way Home came out 20 years later. This movie did a great job of kind of dividing Norman. You can tell because his eye twitches, he lowers his voice, he becomes more gravelly and evil. You really feel like it's a split personality from the Goblin formula, and as Goblin says, your greatest creation. Goblin just has a really creepy aura in this movie, and I love it. I love every second of Goblin. And I think the final scene also displays as well. When Peter finally defeats Norman Osborn, right? Norman Osborn comes back for a second and he tries to plead with Peter for his life. But Peter isn't having any of it. But then Goblin takes over midway. You can see his eye shifts and he gets all evil, gravelly voice. And he tries to pretend to be Norman, tries to trick Peter into showing sympathy so that he can get behind Peter and kill him. played in like I could be your father figure or whatever, but Peter says it. So I had a father figure. His name was Uncle Ben, right? Tie that back to the beginning of the movie, and literally perfect. And then Goblin tries to impale Peter, but dies himself, which I think is poetic. But like, this is one of the best. So I have a little confession. I have never seen The Dark Knight. I've seen a few scenes with Heath Ledger's Joker, but I can see that Green Goblin really has that chaotic nature. He's erratic. You don't know what he's gonna do next. Willem Dafoe really defined the role. Like, if we're gonna be really nitpicky about the movie, I would have to say that the costume for Green Goblin sucks. Like, his No Way costume, I don't really like his costume in No Way Home either. A little better, but still not perfect. I would have preferred if he had the cloak. I think the cloak would add something to this costume, and I think the helmet should have had the hood. I know I always say how comic accuracy really doesn't do much for movies, and I still stand to the point where just because a movie is comic accurate doesn't mean it's better. You need to build your own story instead of just copying what the comics have done. But I think the suit needed more purple. Purple and green is just a nice combination overall. But definitely one of the best villains ever. Thanos is the only other villain I can think of that really nails it home for me on this level. And Thanos is like a huge villain that was hyped up for 20 movies. Green Goblin had like 2 movies to shine, and that was it. Willem Dafoe is just a great actor, though. I don't really have much to say about it. I'm pretty much done. But other great point about the movie is, like, I think Peter is really... this is gonna have its own section, but I guess I'll talk about it now. Peter is, like, super dynamic, and I think the Sam Raimi movie's really pinned down what Peter Parker means, right? He's trying to dabble between keeping his loved ones safe, like Aunt May, and he's also trying to keep Spider-Man going, and Spider-Man 2 touches on this a little more, so in that video, I'll probably have my own section for it, but let's just talk about it here. It's like, Peter's decision to be Spider-Man actually impacts his loved ones. Norman finds out, hunts down Mary Jane, scares Aunt May to have a heart attack. It's perfect. That shows if you're a superhero, you have to be careful because your family isn't safe. And I think it does a good job to the audience of explaining why Peter can't reveal his identity, because I think that's a problem. Nowadays, audiences understand because superheroes weren't really popular back then. This movie really revolutionized superheroes. So a lot of people didn't understand, oh my god, why can't he just reveal to the world that he's Spider-Man? We get a ton of praise. No, villains would come after him, his loved ones would be hurt, and I like that about this movie. I think Sam Raimi really nailed down the core of Peter Parker definitely better than Andrew, but Tom is pretty close in my opinion. If Tobey Maguire is the Peter Parker and Andrew Garfield's the best Spider-Man, Tom Holland is the only one that's decent at both, and I will literally fight you. Overall, very, very, very cool villain and Peter Parker. And yeah, without further ado, I know I've been praising this movie for 8 minutes now, but let's finally get into the criticism. Although Spider-Man 2002 is looked at as a classic, people criticize it slightly. The one thing that I think people criticize is, well, you know what? How do you mess up Mary Jane this bad? Throughout the entire trilogy, MJ is one of the worst written characters ever. For a little comparison, in the MCU, Mary Jane, played by Zendaya, is a dynamic love interest who is also a character who can stand on their own and has their own arc in No Way Home. If you didn't know No Way Home, if you're disappointed, you could no. If you go in with the worst idea, you can never expect disappointment or whatever. But at the end of the movie, she says, "No, we're gonna rock this," because it's like a little arc throughout the movie, Peter showing her hope because they've gotten this far, and that's how you write a love interest, right? A love interest isn't the fact of being a love interest. A love interest. And I think female characters in general, a lot of movies get wrong. Female characters can't just be good at everything. They have to have their own arc. This is what Captain Marvel got wrong. Captain Marvel didn't improve in any way. She just was good at everything. The only thing she needed to learn was learn her powers, but automatically she was powerful. She knew how to control them as soon as she unlocked them. Mary Jane is also in the same boat. It feels like she's just there to be saved and nothing more. In Spider-Man, she's saved from Green Goblin on top of the bridge. In Spider-Man 2, she needs saving from Octavius when he's trying to activate the little device that's on the Hall of Your Hands. In Spider-Man 3, she has to be saved by Peter because Venom captured her to get to Peter. And I think that instead of writing a dynamic character with interesting things to do, they wanted to. Sam Raimi just wrote a boring character that gave Spider-Man things to do. Right? That's really my only huge criticism with this movie. This movie is also very cheesy. Sam Raimi recently directed Doctor Strange, and although that movie was a little cheesy, I'll do this all day. I feel like it wasn't too cheesy. I think it struck a perfect balance. And this movie is too cheesy. The most cheesy movie in the series is Spider-Man 3. I mean, come on, Bully Maguire, put some dirt in your eye. But, this movie is cheesy. That movie is cheesy in a good way. This movie is cheesy in a terrible way. Like, the Green Goblin scare scene is cheesy. I don't know why I say that as cheesy. I just do. I also think that the kiss is the most cheesy scene in cinema. And the fact that you need to dig this deep to now, yeah, it's just the most cheesy movie ever. I also didn't think the world felt real. I know this is gonna be kind of a shocker, but why didn't they talk about the Osborn killing the board of directors more in the movie? They literally just brush over it. It makes the world feel like it's fake, running on a time to get the movie done. And Spider-Man 2 does a way better job at this, with the whole train scene and people missing Spider-Man, the whole thing I used in my YouTube short for J. Jonah Jameson. It's you feel like it's a real world. Spider-Man 3, I haven't seen Spider-Man 3 in a really long time. I watched that movie when I was little all the time. But, I still think that it's, not an amazing movie. I mean, yeah, but come back to Spider-Man 1. The fact that I'm, literally digging this deep to criticize this movie is pretty impressive. Overall, I really went into this movie with a negative attitude, and I did come out with a positive attitude. I thought that Willem Dafoe was the best villain I've ever seen in a movie. But I also think that this movie is way too cheesy. I think that some things are really convenient. Why didn't he use the pumpkin bomb that can, disintegrate literal bodies on Spider-Man in that final fight? You could tell me he only had one. And it's not like any other movies haven't had this criticism. The entire MCU has many plot holes. Wanda, Wanda will forever forget she had kids. Little plot, or how did Thanos find Loki? That's a major plot convenience for me. How did Thanos even know Loki had the time stone? Little inconveniences like that. But it's always good to touch on them, just simply because, well, we're here to criticize the movie. We're here to look at it with a critical eye. I'm personally nostalgic. If I'm nostalgic for anything, it's Iron Man Armored Adventures and Lego Batman 2. You guys remember Lego Batman 2 and Lego Marvel Superheroes? Those are the two games I'm really nostalgic for. Those games are awesome. I actually still have them on my PS4. But overall, I just don't like when people let nostalgia get in the way of critiquing a movie. I think on the Hype to No Way Home, people were reviewing this movie like crazy. And everyone said it was a masterpiece. Do I think it's a masterpiece? No. Do I think it's a good movie? Yes, I actually think it was written very well. So, yep, Spider-Man 2 Spider-Man just quality or nostalgia? I think it's quality. Somewhere in the middle, but I'd say it's quality. So, yep, thank you for watching. I will have a new storm out really soon to address Madam Web, Ezra Miller apologizing, Kung Fu Panda 4 being announced. I know that's huge, but that's huge to me. And, yeah, so stay tuned for that new storm. I'm probably going to film it as soon as this video is done editing and probably put that out tomorrow morning. And then I'm also just going to probably put out... And I actually thought She-Hulk came out today, but apparently She-Hulk comes out tomorrow. So I'll be reviewing that. I'm going to be doing weekly, maybe 3 to 4 minute reviews of each episode of She-Hulk. It might even make it a YouTube short, I'm not sure. But I'll definitely be doing it. I gotta figure it out today. So if you like the video, subscribe, check out if you like this video, you will this is a video essay. If you like this video essay, you will like my Spider-Man, how Spider-Man No Way Home did the unthinkable. It'll be in the description. Also check out J. Jonah Jameson, if you also like that. And if you like review style content, check out I actually haven't done a review in a while. Check out my YouTube short for Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, I guess. And yeah, Joshua out. Subscribe, click the bell, check out my other videos, and stay electric.